Hey guys, please like, share and subscribe, and leave your comments. Now, back to the story. Our chapter starts in the outskirts of the Pui Field dungeon, where a sleek black car idled, waiting for the signal. Inside, Choi held a flickering blue flame shaped like a bird in his hand, his expression as serious as ever. If this summon fades, that's our cue, he said, his voice unwavering. It'll be the signal that the party's in trouble. He paused for a moment, his gaze locked on the flame. The summon of a summon will keep us informed of the situation. Being able to solve the issue of devices not working within dungeons, that's a big deal. A sly grin crept onto Choi's face, though it was more of a facade than anything genuine. I really hope the S ranks won't have to get involved in this mess, he added, his voice taking on a hint of mockery. Lim Tai, sitting next to him, didn't react at first, but Choi knew he was paying attention. Choi pressed on, saying, I hope Lee Minsung doesn't create any more trouble. Hunter Tai, you're worried, aren't you? Lim's eyes narrowed, his tone turning cold. Are you trying to get on my nerves? He asked, his patience already wearing thin. Choi chuckled, his voice light as he attempted to brush off the tension. Of course not. Why would I do that? But Lim wasn't buying it. His irritation was palpable, and he shot back. Guess you're jealous S-rank Hunter Park don't join the Grim Reaper Guild, huh? Choi's expression shifted, clearly irked. He forced a smile, one that didn't quite reach his eyes. Not at all. We already have plenty of talented hunters in our guild, he said, though his tone was anything but convincing. Lim went quiet for a moment, then sighed deeply. I can't believe Lee Minsung is the one behind distributing that unknown stimulant. As a guild master, I feel responsible for all of this. He leaned back, frustration clear in his voice. If things go south, Choi, I trust you'll keep your promise. Don't interfere if I can handle it myself. Choi crossed his arms, his voice stern. I would be glad if you could, Taya. I'd prefer to avoid hurting others if possible. The scene then snapped to the dungeon, where the boss monster, likely a salamander, was charging up for a devastating fire breath. The raid party, however, was holding its ground. The tank took the brunt of the attack, raising his shield to block the inferno, while Lee Minsung, his sword gripped firmly in one hand, charged forward with a fierce, relentless energy. Miho couldn't help but notice the change in Lee Minsung. His demeanor was off, something was different. But even more striking was the sight of the apostle and S-rank hunter standing still, observing rather than contributing to the battle. As Miho charged at the salamander, she shot a glance at the apostle and thought, he's acting like an S-rank, letting the others do all the work. We're his seniors, though. Why isn't he helping? Her attention snapped back to Lee Minsung, her mind racing. I don't know what's going on, but ever since we entered the boss's lair, Lee Minsung's been fighting harder than I've ever seen him. This isn't normal. Meanwhile, the apostle's gaze was fixed on Lee Minsung, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. With this, he thought to himself, I'm certain now. Stardust has no effect on hunters above B rank, but the star fragment, its condensed form, can take them to the next level. As Lee Minsung charged forward, his speed was nothing short of blinding. He slashed at the salamander with precise, brutal force, each strike landing with deadly accuracy. Then, with a burst of agility, he leapt high into the air, positioning himself for another strike. The sheer display of power from Lee Minsung left even Miho stunned. She had never expected such a relentless assault from him. The salamander monster let out an enraged roar, the pain from Lee Minsung's strike visibly angering it. With a bloodthirsty gleam in its eyes, the creature locked onto Lee Minsung and, in one swift motion, lashed out with its massive tail. The attack was fast and lethal, a deadly strike meant to crush him. But Lee Minsung, no rookie to combat, reacted just as quickly. He raised his sword to block the tail, and though he successfully defended himself, the sheer force of the blow sent him skidding back several feet. His muscles burned from the impact, but he stood tall, unshaken. From the sidelines, the apostle watched intently, his mind working through the scenario. It looks like it's tough for an A-rank hunter to fight on the same level as an S-rank, even with the awakening effect of the star fragment, he thought, his eyes glinting with an unreadable emotion. The apostle clasped his hands together, and golden energy began to radiate from his body. He muttered, "In that case, one of the 5 abilities of TL, a fragment of the main body, grants the blessing of amplification. This will amplify the unique traits of those it possesses, the faith of the mistborn stored within the stardust, and the unique traits of their weapons. Everything will be enhanced." As the apostle spoke, Lee Minsung's body began to glow with a blue aura, his weapon gleaming in the same radiant light. The apostle continued, his voice filled with anticipation. "The unique trait Lee Minsung has is the amplification of magic power. His weapon's unique trait amplifies his slash power. Let's see if you can reach the level you so desperately seek, Lee Minsung. Show me the power of an S rank." With a new power coursing through him, Lee Minsung's form was almost blinding as the energy surged within. His eyes, now glowing a piercing yellow, narrowed with deadly intent. Then, in a single fluid motion, he unleashed a devastating slash, a concentrated blast of magic-enhanced power that cut through the salamander monster with terrifying precision. The force of the attack was so great that it shattered the roof of the dungeon, sending debris flying in all directions. A massive explosion reverberated through the chamber. Outside, Choi and Lim Tai, sitting in the car, witnessed the eruption from a distance, their eyes widened in disbelief. The sheer magnitude of the explosion was something neither had anticipated. Back inside the dungeon, Miho stood frozen in shock, her mouth agape as she stared at the enormous hole created by Lee Minsung's attack. The ground was littered with debris, and the monstrous creature had been reduced to nothing more than a lifeless heap. Miho could hardly process what she had just witnessed. What the hell was that? She thought, her mind racing. How did Lee Minsung gain so much power? He's an A-rank hunter. Lee Minsung remained silent as he stood over the defeated monster, his sword still dripping with the creature's remains. His expression was stoic, unreadable. He turned toward the apostle, who was watching him with a bemused grin. The apostle's thoughts were a bit more cynical now. The fatigue caused by amplifying the power of A-rank or above hunters is tremendous, he mused, observing Lee Minsung. He's only reached S rank for a fleeting moment. Most of the amplification has already dissipated. The apostle scoffed. What a pity, Lee Minsung. It seems you don't have the vessel to contain the power of an S rank. Those words struck a chord deep within Lee Minsung. His fists clenched, and for a moment, a storm seemed to rage behind his calm facade. The mention of his limitations triggered something in him. He wasn't done, not by a long shot. Meanwhile, Miho and the other hunters observed the aftermath of Lee Minsung's devastating attack. Miho's thoughts turned darker as she narrowed her eyes, processing what had just unfolded. That was not something an A-rank hunter could pull off. So how did he do it? She amused. Wasn't Stardust supposed to be ineffective on high-ranking hunters? Or is there some other stimulant at play here? The puzzle pieces were starting to shift in her mind, and the questions were piling up. The tension in the air was palpable. Something was brewing, and the answers were becoming more elusive by the second. Miho's gaze shifted rapidly between Lee Minsung and the apostle, her heart racing with confusion. Suddenly, with unexpected swiftness, Lee Minsung pierced the apostle's back with his sword, sending shockwaves through everyone present. The apostle staggered forward, gritting his teeth in agony. A weak, strained voice escaped his lips. Lee Minsung, how did you? But before he could finish his sentence, Lee Minsung chuckled darkly. I told you, didn't I? I'd never be brainwashed by someone like you. His eyes were now pitch black, his face twisted into a sinister grin. He continued, the malevolent smile never leaving his lips. I'll put this cursed power you gave me to good use. With a swift motion, Lee Minsung yanked his sword back, and the apostle collapsed to the ground in front of the stunned hunters. The room fell into a tense silence as the hunters who had just been fighting beside him now looked at Lee Minsung with wary eyes. Miho, her voice laced with fury, shouted, Lee Minsung! How could you attack a fellow hunter like that? Have you lost your mind from using the drug? Lee Minsung's laughter was manic, echoing in the room like a broken echo. His hand shot to his forehead as he grinned madly. Damn it! So this is how things turned out in the end. Sweat poured down his face as his eyes shifted between black and yellow, glowing with dark power. I hear endless voices. S-rank hunters are waiting outside on orders from the association. If I don't get out of here now, I won't be able to escape at all. His gaze flickered to the hunters blocking his escape route. I have to leave. He clenched his teeth, his entire being consumed with desperation. Miho, her anger boiling, commanded, Don't let Lee Minsung get away! With a roar that shook the air, Lee Minsung shouted, Get out of my way unless you want to die! His body surged with newfound power as he moved with blinding speed, cutting down anyone who stood in his way. Hunters fell before him like leaves in a storm, too slow to react as he sliced through them with deadly precision. In the blink of an eye, he had escaped through the hole he'd created earlier in the roof. Miho and the others stood frozen, processing the chaos. Miho's thoughts raced as she turned to another hunter. Send the signal to the S-rank hunters outside, she ordered, though she couldn't shake the feeling that something had gone horribly wrong. Her gaze suddenly snapped back to the apostle, and her breath caught in her throat. The apostle, bloodied and battered, was back on his feet despite the grievous wound Lee Minsung had inflicted. The apostle grinned, pressing his hand against the wound to stem the bleeding. As long as one has a strong enough mind, they can resist the divinity of the Mistborn, regardless of how much magic power they have. That's good data, he said, his voice dripping with a twisted satisfaction, a perverse calm after surviving such an attack. Miho's voice dropped to a low murmur. Hunter Park, how are you still alive? That attack went straight through your heart. The apostle's devilish smile stretched wider as he raked his bloodied hand through his hair, striking the most menacing pose possible. He said nothing in response, the silence speaking volumes of his sinister intentions. Outside the dungeon, Lee Minsung was racing through the dense forest, cursing the entire situation. His body ached, his mind spinning with thoughts of betrayal and frustration. I obtained the power of an S rank, but now I'm on the run. This is ridiculous. His breath came in heavy gasps as he pushed himself forward. Damn aliens, the Hunter Association, the Grim Reaper Guild, there's no one I can trust. I need to hide out in a nearby city, at least for now, he muttered under his breath. Suddenly his thoughts were interrupted by a blade whistling through the air, striking the ground just inches in front of him. Lee Minsung froze, confusion and tension flooding his mind. What was that? Who is following me? A voice emerged from the shadows of the woods, its tone authoritative and calm. I was wondering what had happened with the explosion, and I figured you'd come out on your own. Lee Minsung whipped around, startled to see a figure stepping out from the trees. Suho? He asked, his voice trembling with a mix of shock and apprehension. The mysterious figure emerged fully, his presence commanding. Suho stepped toward Lee Minsung, his expression cold and determined, his eyes burning with intensity. I need you to tell me everything you know about the Stardust and the Itarim Apostle, Lee Minsung, Suho demanded, his tone brooking no argument. Thank you for watching. We've just covered the 37th chapter of the series, and there's more to come. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome recaps. If you enjoyed the content, feel free to click the thanks button to show your support. We'll be back soon with more thrilling episodes. Till then, cheers and have a great day.